The club has done so much for me. It's just been the best experience of my life.
Is that something in you that you feel like you've had to be able to pick that from players?
I'm surprised we won 18.
How much influence can you have on grand final day like that? Five goals down as a coach.
And then the losses started to mount up. And that became a real challenge.
What did you say when you walked into the press conference?
That's why I think the group now, they're ready for something different. You just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
Can I jog your memory with a couple of memories I had from our first
I've been talking
interactions?
a lot today. I don't know
That's
if this
right.
is normal.
No, it's a good. So one was before your sort of first presentation to the group. Like I definitely remember your first chat in the lecture theatre. I'll come back to that, but I'm pretty sure our first time meeting, you sort of did individual meetings with everybody, and we're in pre-season, and you'd done the leadership group first on the Friday. And then, so the Monday was the rest of the plebs. And Adam Selwood, I think, was in the leadership group. And Sellers had called me over the weekend and he's like, mate, have you met Simo yet? I said, oh, nah, I think I gave him a text, said congrats or welcome or something. And he said, oh, mate, I'm not sure how he sort of feels about the beard, you and Masto and JK. And I said, what do you fucking mean? Who cares? Fucking beard. And this wasn't driven by you, I will say, but Sellers is like, mate, like, genuinely, like I'd think about shaving it off. And I was like, far out. Righto. So I spent the weekend mulling on it, woke up Monday morning, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to shave it off. I want to make a good impression.
Yeah.
Shaved a beard that took me like 5 years to grow off. Masto did the same, clean, and he went like cutthroat, clean.
Yeah.
Like you could baby face. I at least had a bit of stubble. I rolled in and you've looked at me like, where the fuck's your beard gone? And I was like, fuck.
No, you had the man bun as well.
Right. You didn't like
had
that?
the Jesus look.
You didn't like that either?
I just don't know how you can play. How do you play with that? It was like, so I wanted him gone.
As he did?
Yeah.
So you just stuff him in my brain.
Yeah.
Really?
No, I was like, it was mainly because I don't know how you can play. So I don't really care. But footy's the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it was like, no, you're all trying to look like David Beckham at the time. And and JK walked in and said, listen, mate, this is my identity.
Did he?
I said, okay, you can keep it.
I did know that JK kept it. So
yeah,
he was strong enough in his own person.
And I think you said, and I've got a pinhead underneath it. Something like that. It was pretty funny because it's true.
And he was a better player than me and Masto.
Yeah. Could probably make those calls.
My first recollection of you is when I did a process where everyone pick your best team. Everyone's available. Go, groups of 8 go around, and then we'll come back and present the best team. And you've got up in your meeting and just picked up your badge and just threw it centre half back. And you said, all right, pick the rest of the team. And no one else had you in their team. Well, maybe not no one else. It was the confidence you had in yourself was premium, was high. And I did admire that.
Well, I used to love and hate those because you did that every year at the club. It was the pre-season one, and Simo would say, players with like year-ending, there's blokes with an ACL, leave them out of it. But if a bloke's with a hammy, like he's available for selection today, and it's before the pre-season. And I reckon in 10 years under you, or however many years I played under you, like I was probably the only one I was in was the one I picked myself in. Like
I've noticed no one challenged you in your meeting either.
Yeah,
I said, let's just go. I reckon.
Yeah.
So
I tell this story a bit though, and this is very relevant having you on the podcast, is I played 4 round ones in my whole career, 14 years.
Did you really?
You and Woosha picked me 4 times round one.
Not injured?
Not injured. Always available.
Good pre-season.
But then, it's probably a terrible pre-season. But I wanted to ask around, like, I always had this thing on my shoulder that coaches round one would pick, like, we hope they, hope they're going to be good. But then by round 2 or 3, like I played a lot of games, so I ended up back in the side by round 2 and 3 most years.
Right.
So the round one side, to me, used to be mythical.
I think you guys.
I don't know what the question is.
There's a crew of you at West Coast. There's just overthink so much. Like everything is conspiracy theory. Everything's an agenda. Everything is planned. No, not once have I ever thought that.
Okay, perfect.
What you did do, and Hutch was never in, is never in anyone's team, but premiership player and almost the first pick by the end of the year. I suppose you do look at someone's upside over pre-season, and the pressure of playing round one is always greater than a pre-season game. So, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Was there any psychology in seeing if players would pick themselves in those lists? Like, are you looking for people to be like, no, I'm not there? like as a reason not
It's a really, I saw it happen at Hawthorn and a few times, and some players challenge, why am I not in this side, like in front of everyone? But no, it was to see where the players rate each other, not themselves more. I reckon most guys in their own meeting are sort of not far off their own side, but it was more to see the players' perception of each other, and just to make them realise how hard it is. It's like, well, why didn't you put Scully in and then have to go, well, we couldn't, too many tours or whatever, someone has to miss out. A part of it was just to make sure they knew how hard it was.
Yeah. It was difficult. One of your first tests was Jeremy McGovern.
Yeah.
Was that your first pre-season where he wasn't fit enough?
Yeah.
And you effectively sent him away? Can you remember that?
No, I remember that. Yeah, he did a time trial, if you could call it that.
He's told this story as well from his side.
I'm sure he has, and he's probably more accurate than I am. But I remember that he's either getting lapped or he didn't finish, and he looked like he can't. I reckon you could hide your.
If I was unfit,
yeah, you could hide it somehow. Yeah. You'd put up one effort. So let's go. He's had a good pre-season.
Yeah. Tell you I was doing a Rotto swim or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whereas Gov hadn't quite learnt that skill, and he looked really heavy. And he was a rookie list. Yeah. So I remember sitting down and saying, mate, we haven't met yet. I'll meet you in 6 weeks. I remember saying that.
Right.
And he probably says it's differently.
No, I think you said something like that.
I'll meet you in 6 weeks and we'll see how we go. And Martin Nikoski worked his ass off with Gov one-on-one, and then I think Gov started riding his bike everywhere and doing that. So he would tell that story better because his talent was just so obvious. Didn't know where he was going to play though, so he was a forward when he first arrived. But so he came back and he was marginally better. He's lost 1 kilo, but he had competitive instinct. He just had everything. I was listening to someone yesterday talk about his season this year. He's all Australian this year,
number 1 key defender in the league.
Absolutely, yeah. So he's got 4 in the bank as well, and I've never seen a player play under so much adversity with his body. He's almost my favourite. So that particular time though, he was
You obviously had a lot of belief in him.
Mate, you could tell.
Right,
you could tell he's footy brain. And we put him down back at Waffle. I don't know if you might have been with him.
Probably.
It was against Swan Districts. We said, why don't you just play back and just see if you can read the play. And we're trying to do this thing where the backs are never more than 60 metres away from the ball. That was sort of new back then. And so he stood 30 metres in front of his man and he took 10 contested intercept marks, but his man kicked 8. And which didn't care. We might have kicked 5. But you could sort of tell, okay, he's reading the game so well, and with minimal instruction other than just stand where you think the ball's going to go. So, I mean, the rest, 99% of what Gov's done has been him.
Do you think you've got a skill then in finding that? Because obviously, the normal person would have looked at Gov, some guy overweight, looks like he hasn't really been, but you saw that in him, right? So is that something in you that you feel like you've had to be able to pick that from players?
Sometimes you're way off. Yeah. Sometimes you can tell there's something there to work with, and some. I don't think it's an exact science. I think talls are really hard to work out. When they're 18, 19. I remember Todd Goldstein at North was like, this guy's a dud.
Still playing.
He's still playing. Yeah. I tried to toughen him up one day. I got him in the boxing ring. Said, give him a couple of clips because he's a bit soft.
Right.
And he punched the shit out of me. So, well, you learnt your lesson. Be tougher at game day. But
on you get. Good job.
Yeah, well done. It's really hard to pick. But
what about the guys that you just know don't have it? Is there at some point are they a lost cause and you're just keeping it around because you have to?
No, it's not as simple as that, because there's always hope. They get drafted for a reason. So part of it's can we get the best out of this player? But there's a certain point where you go, this is as good as we're going to get, and he's not going to make it. We make 8 changes or 9 changes a year to your list. So I reckon if you get 2 players out of the draft that make 200 games, you've had a good draft. So sometimes you can tell really early, but most of the time it takes a couple of years.
Did you have favourites? You mentioned Gov was one of your favourites. Like, did you have favourites? And what makes a favourite player? Is it not necessarily they're the best player? Maybe you enjoy the interactions. Maybe you like the way they play. Like, did you have favourites as a coach?
It's a good question, mate. I haven't thought about it.
You just said Gov was one of your favourites.
Well, I think he's a bit of an outlier.
Like, what sort of players? You don't have to name them, but what sort of players did you like to coach? Like, is it effort guys? Is it consistency?
Competitive instinct was big. Like, right. I really like players that just want to win. You know, Yoey's like that. Like, he just wants to win. So, the competitive instinct's probably the biggest thing you look for. So, in terms of favourite, I'm connecting that to the type of person they are, their values, what they like away from footy, the whole package type of people. And you sort of connect a bit more as the longer you spend at the club. So, you know, the criticism I suppose I would have got the last year or two is the loyalty I showed the guys, you know, back in 18. So the loyalty around what those guys did probably connects to the favouritism a little bit.
So reflecting on it, are you happy with how you handled that side of things? The loyalty,
I think the last 2 or 3 years it's been unique. I've never ever experienced it or seen it where the selection was it was so hard. So from the year after COVID, when we got COVID late, remember the WA?
Yeah.
Some of the things we did back then too around the COVID stuff, like how dumb. Some people have proven to be right. The history will tell us, but the dealing with that year, I don't know what year it was, when we had the waffle players filling in, you know, guys going out. What was that nightclub you guys went? You might have gone to, but
Hippie Club. I wasn't there. But
Hippie Club, where you know, it was like a mortal sin to go out, and you know, but we were playing top up players, and so the integrity of selection was just so hard. So favoritism and loyalty just went out the window. It's just like you can miss 12 weeks and play the next week because it's either play Dom, who's missed 12 weeks of football, or get a guy from Waffle, which no disrespect to them, but they weren't on a list. So the integrity around selection and match committee and fitness, and then the criticism came behind all that, and then the losses started to mount up, and that became a real challenge. And then the next year I thought, we're going to be okay this year, and that was 2 years ago. You know, presenting to potential players, here's our best team. It had Nat Nui and Shuey and Hearn and everyone in it, and then by the time we hit round 2 or 3, we lost 15 players in 2 weeks, and that became a real challenge again. So this year's the first year I feel like the integrity of everything's back to where it was, and you can be judged on performance, and that's what happened.
On that whole selection thing, there's a lot of this talk, probably more from the outside, of like play the kids and that whole shtick of development and things like that. So how do you balance that of like trying to win games and show sort of faith in your veteran players, but also develop younger guys as well?
Yeah. Like I reckon this is the first year you can actually judge. You can judge us on that because the last 2 years before it, you'd play anyone, you know. Whereas this year, I think we, you know, we've had more opportunities to at least 10 players play waffle. So there's a list there you can choose from, but some of the kids just aren't ready. Like they're 18, 19 years old and clearly not ready to play. I think I don't know how many we debuted this year, 5, 6, 7 players, I don't know. And, you know, I think it'll pay us back in years to come. But the rhetoric around that and development, that sort of stuff, it's been a really hard thing to assess.
2014, I remember sitting in I'm pretty sure it was like a hotel, like boardroom thing in the Gold Coast watching Richmond play Sydney on a Saturday night maybe, or a Friday night. And we needed Sydney to win. Richmond needed to win to get in the finals. Richmond won by 4 points or something. And because of that, the game the next day for us was null and void, and we finished 9th in 2014. So that's the way that season ended. And then 2015 go on and make a grand final. Were you surprised that in your second year as coach that we played in a grand final?
Absolutely. I'm surprised we won 18. We come with some ideas. We were a pretty young coaching group, and you guys, what was exciting when I got to the club is, you know, the opportunity for you guys to play in different positions and have different coaches around you. and you grew straight away. And I remember the preseason, the players turned up super fit in 15 preseason. Quite often you're looking in December at who's on the track. And I remember looking at our midfield group and everyone, like Nat Nui, everyone was training. I was like, this is going to be good. So that was in 15, and I think we had a lot of guys get injured late in pre-season, 3 or 4 knees or something like that. And we did some different stuff. You know, the players really adapted to it, like Sharrow Wellingham and Ellis, yourself, Gov. We started zoning a lot more. Remember that?
Yep.
And
this is the Weagles web.
Yeah, whatever.
Externally.
Yeah. And, you know, that was, I mean, how that come about was a little bit more. Hick was your coach. And I remember walking into a line meeting and going, oh, you know, that sort of thing we do it a bit more in terms of be a bit braver with your positioning. And then you guys just started to work it out. And we got in front of the game a little bit, I thought, the competition. And that doesn't happen very often.
It got to the point where teams didn't know what was going on.
No.
And sometimes we didn't know what was going on.
Absolutely you didn't know. I can tell you Wellingham didn't know what was going on. I don't know, it just worked. And then obviously the midfield was pretty good and our front half was good as well. So all of a sudden we get to the pointy end. I remember I was going, what is going on here? Like the prelim was Freo were in the prelim as well.
That's right.
In 15, there was a chance we could have played each other in the granny, which would have been huge.
Yeah.
And we played North in the prelim over here.
Yep.
Yeah, so we got worked out pretty quickly after that, and we adapted a few things for the coming years. But that year, I thought we got in front of the comp, which you can sort of see clubs do every now and then get worked out. Then you've got to reassess and re-evolve.
I sat next to you on the bus after the 2015 grand final. I'm sure you don't remember. And I only just remembered as we're sitting here talking. We rode from the MCG to the function, right, which is meant to be a celebratory function. And I remember talking to you on the way, and I felt like as a playing group we were a bit in disbelief. Like, you don't go to a grand final planning to lose and to lose poorly. Yep. And maybe the coaches were a bit as well. Like, did you learn? Like, what did you learn from 2015?
Well, it's a risk when you lose like that, and I think a lot of clubs. There's been some blowouts the last few years, and if you look at the guys who've been blown out, it's actually the next year you think you're going to change a lot because you think, oh, we're miles away. But you look at now and you go, geez, how you're that far away, you have a bad day. So I remember saying we need to get a harder edge and all that sort of stuff. We need to toughen up. We need to be, because we're ground balls, we're 18th and that sort of stuff. And so I remember presenting to the board, we've got to start doing this, and and we probably tinkered too much because 16 and 17 were just whatever. And I suspect other clubs have done that recently as well, that have just been that close and then drop away. And you think you got to reinvent yourself a little bit. Whereas, we weren't that far off.
Spoken to a heap of players who have lost grand finals, and I'd say almost all of them have said that they've never watched that game again, like they refused to. Did you have to sit through 15 and watch it and review it or anything?
No. Wait, did we?
Yep.
Did we?
Yep.
On Monday?
Yep.
Oh,
I remember what you showed. I do. Remember what you showed?
No.
You showed, amongst other things, we watched. It was a
proper review.
It was a proper review, but like everyone was hung and probably a couple on their way still. But yeah, we sat down and did a review. And one of the clips was Gov picking Hodgie up off the ground.
Oh, now I remember. What was he doing that for?
Yeah, I agreed with you. I was speaking to Gov
you.
about it. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, well, there's the harder edge stuff.
Yeah, you're trying to present that, that was their third premiership in a row.
Yeah.
Hawthorn. And you were trying to show the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Right?
I remember that. Yeah.
So did you regret anything about the preparation we had for that game?
I'd been through a few granny. I was really lucky. Like, I've had, 4 or 5 grand final day experiences as a player and as an assistant coach. And I don't know how many of you guys went through it.
It was Sharrod and Zave.
Yeah. And doing it WA, because I was a bit naive. Like, what do we do with tickets and families? And we're all staying in the same hotel. And I remember looking over the balcony at the hotel. It was like a party the night before. So, okay, because, lent on the previous grand final appearances with the club. So, yeah, I didn't think we prepared. The grand final parade, it's all different. So I think the next time we played, we went down a different path, didn't we? We did a bit more accept the week, embrace the game type of vibe.
Yep.
And families, different hotel.
Yep. Someone sorting tickets.
Someone sorting tickets. Yeah, all that sort of stuff that you think is pretty common sense. and I don't know how much that helped us. We're 5 goals down both in the first quarter. So I don't know if that helped us, but it definitely felt a little bit different going through 15. And quite often teams go through a loss before they go through. I remember saying after 15, the only way you can redeem yourself is to win one. That's the only thing that can fix a grand final loss.
That's interesting. Did you lose a grand final?
Yeah.
What
98,
right?
Yeah. Yeah. We were, I don't know. I think we kicked 18 points to half time, as in behind.
Yeah, right.
And then Jarman kicked 5 or something.
Adelaide game, right?
Adelaide game, yeah. Yep.
I think that's the one Mick Martin said to duck to. Well, it's so easy, just kick it through the sticks at the function afterwards or something.
Yeah.
Well,
we don't win 99 if we win 98. My gut feel. So 98 hurt, and then 99 was not redemption, but
18 was if we can flick forward to that then, as a big, like that was a big year, and I was writing down my memories of it. It started effectively with one of my first memories was the trademark session we had as players, where we set friends, family flags.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. So you do them every year, don't you, as a player, as a coach, and like you try to do something that the players hang their hat on and go, this is what we live by. Yeah. And I mean, that probably doesn't look as good if you don't win the flag, does it? But it's just interesting. We set that in December or November or something.
I remember going when I got the job saying, "Oh, here's my values, and you guys can work underneath that." I think it was the unity, being elite, and competitive instinct, and what that means to us as a group. And that carried through for a few years, and then I think I was either one of you guys. I feel like it was JK said, "Listen, can we have our own?" I think, thank God, like you drive the car analogy. I don't go into that one, but you got the keys to the car. If you finally want, to get in front of it, and JK, said, "Well, can we do our own?" It's like, absolutely. And I thought for the first few years we were just part of West Coast, so big the club. And the playing group was just part of the club, where we're the front line of the footy club. Like we're what everyone, we should fall behind the players. And I thought that was the year when family, friends, flags, and that was why do you play the game, wasn't it? Yeah. Play for our families, play for our friends, and we play to win premiership. So great platform for me to work off. It was yeah. They don't last very long, trademarks.
No.
In a football sense, they need to be reviewed every year or two. But that one was pretty special.
It was So 2018, we had. I don't know if you remember, but you had a picture of Everest. This. It was interesting with like different motivation tactics, because I think like looking externally at you as a head coach, there is a motivation element. Like you're rolling out playing the same game every week. Like you can't just give the same message every time.
Yeah, got to be good. I think you got to be good at telling stories as well.
Right.
And
why?
Well, because it gets boring if you just talk about strategy every week. So I think telling stories and getting some inspiration from other things is part of your repertoire when you're a coach. And my only stories I could tell were my son Owen, because he was growing up. He got here as a 10-year-old, and now he's 18. And I felt like you guys could connect. You remember the Owen stories?
Yeah. Bloody hell.
Connect.
This is pre-game.
Pre-game. Just pre-game. Yeah.
Pre-game.
Yeah, like Owen gets in a fight at primary school, meet at the Oval, and Owen's First Nations mate says, right, let's go to the Oval together. And then Owen just went home and his mate rocked up and
so what was the point of that story?
Stick by your mates.
Good.
Something like that.
Yeah,
and
well, if you just said stick by your mates, that's boring.
That's right. Yeah, but the story was, because Owen's driving home. How was your day? He goes, oh yeah, there's a fight. I got in a fight. And he goes, I said, when's the fight? Or something like that. He said, oh, it's after school. I said, well. Anyway, so Owen's mate won the trademark award that week. So that was a big photo of I think it's Jalen, his name was. Anyway,
I remember that.
And the First Nations boys in our team were like, pretty proud of Jalen. So yeah, the storytelling was. It was really important. Yeah, I think, and then half the time you guys started laughing and then I knew you guys were okay. It's when you got too serious. It's just footy. So trying to relax a player before a game, one of the biggest parts of your job.
The Everest? Sorry, Dan.
Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah.
No. The Everest, like what, we did it in blocks. So it was like you had like blocks of 4 games all the way up Everest, basically.
I don't know whether we did that at North or Hawthorn, but just blocking the season up to a 4-week block. And we did, let's get the Everest.
We're trying to win 3 out of the 4 every 4.
Yeah, that's right. And we dedicate the month to something.
Yeah.
So I think we had Hunt Month one year.
That's right.
One block, and it had Shannon Hearn with a big boar that he killed sitting over his shoulder. Remember that?
Blood dripping everywhere.
Blood, all
You're
over.
not motivated by
You
that.
couldn't tell the difference between the boar and Bung's chest. It was like, so those type of themes. But I don't know if it didn't work the next year or the year after, but that particular year, it resonated.
Just while we're on team meetings, there's a story that gets told many times on this podcast through people that were involved and in the room, and that's JK being put up to a dare and calling you Adsy. Do you remember this?
I do. You're an idiot. I don't really care. Like I don't know why Adsy wasn't a.
Well, it's not your nickname.
No.
It's
But no one had ever called you that before.
No. And he must have spun it on one of your stupid wheel things that you do. You in charge of that?
I was.
Yeah. There was the most laughter I ever hear at the club is when the fine sessions are on and it's players only. I'm not sure how they'd fly these days.
You used to like them though.
I loved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But after a loss and we're about to review a game, probably shouldn't do a fine session before the team meeting. And so it was one of those, listen, what's going on here? And then JK's got, hey, Adsy. And everyone started trying to laugh like you are now. So I knew something had happened at that stupid fine session. So I can't remember what I said.
You weren't happy. I can tell you that right
it was more about
because
the
you
game.
were like, you were game mode and we'd just come out of a fine session, which you promoted it. So it was your fault in the end, really.
Oh, everything's my fault. Have you read The West lately?
But one thing you did, like so I had Woosha and you as head coaches, like you weren't a big sprayer. Neither was Woosha really.
No.
But you both had like a look. Like and you used to speak more with your eyes and your facial expressions. And I remember that day you weren't happy.
Disappointed dad. That's the I think that's the modern that's the what I see is the best way to tell someone that and I think going through fatherhood as well, you don't want to break your kids either. So just the look seems to resonate more than not the hit, but the scream,
the spray,
because the players in particular, it's not deliberate when you bugger up, and you don't want to lose them. And every time I went too hard, I got a phone call in the last 4 or 5 years from the manager.
You used to mention this a lot at the club. Like I guarantee you never got one from mine. I find that interesting. I've got this later on, but now we're on it. Like the manager's involvement. You used to speak about that a lot. I used to hear it a lot, but
I don't know if I just felt like there's things that get out.
What are they ringing you for? I still never understood that.
No, they wouldn't ring me. They'd be ringing the GM, going, "What's going on with so and so's just copped the spray?" And you're like,
can you imagine if mine called every time that we would have it? Oh, Nige Carmody.
Oh, you mean player managers would call the?
Yeah, the relationships are different. Like I was not quite used to what the managers, and they're very, very good, but they're a lot more connected than back in the day. I was like, manager, organise my contract, thanks, mate. And your parents or other people would be the ones that you'd ring if you got dropped. I would never ring my manager when I got dropped, but that seems to be just the modern way of going about it, and they do a lot more for the player. So, yeah, that seems to be that's new.
Did you ever have like calls from parents around selection, or like
not me, but yeah,
and I won't. Definitely don't have to name any, but just in general.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. Parents actively involved,
right,
a lot.
Like Auskick days.
Yeah, not far off.
Surprises me.
Yeah, some don't talk to me. Yeah, I've met a couple, and it's like, but that's okay. It's obviously they care about their kids.
So 2018, back on that friends, family, flags, and the sort of journey we went on. But towards the back end of the year, like it was significant adversity for the group, but definitely for individuals. So Nick Nat did his ACL.
Yeah.
Gaffey reported suspended, and Shep in finals does his hammy. And those 3 players are among our top 10, top 5.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like they
was
best
huge.
players.
Yeah, I think the Gaffey one was the biggest one. I know Nick's obviously tragic, and that was heartbreaking. But the Gaffey one, really galvanised the group, and it broke Gaffy for a period of time, as you know. I still, to this day, don't think he meant to do it. But, yeah, I remember that day I went down the bench and had a chat with him, and he was just like, there's nothing in it, mate. You'll be fine. I'll just you'll be right. And he's going, I didn't. And he's, And then we got some real strong criticism from the media, like, have you got a cultural problem? Something like that. I remember the next game. It was Basil, that Channel 7 show went on the news. It was like, what's wrong with your culture? And he kept on asking questions. I was like, what's
you
going
went back
on
at him a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a little bit. And you got to be careful with that, because every time you go back at people in the media, you cop it back 10 times. But I remember before the game, the next week, I just wrote culture on the board. And we played Adelaide, and we had a win, and it was a really good win. And I think we all sent Gaffy a photo. Everyone was doing this, something like that. Yeah. And I don't know what round that was, probably 8 rounds out. So that was a big motivating factor, and also a big disappointment for Gaffy, and obviously for Brayshaw as well. It was a big incident, I suppose.
Yeah, and the 2 West Australian clubs and all of that.
Yeah, and trying to diffuse that was impossible. And we're just really lucky. I mean, the Brayshaw family is just elite people, and all class. I remember speaking to Sticks, his dad, who's a past player at North, runs the golf trip. He's a typical Brayshaw.
We know one well.
Yeah. We can talk about him later too. Right? But yeah, he was just all class and concern for Gaffy. So yeah, that was a big day.
Talking about the media, and you can get to sort of back into your coaching career, but I remember at the start of 2018, you put an article from Robert Walls up on the board. We're at City Beach and we were doing stuff, and Wallsy picked us for the spoon.
You rang him, didn't you?
Yeah, I did after we won, but he picked us for the spoon. And the only reason I knew about it because you showed us.
Yeah, right.
He spooned us before the season started.
Yeah.
You used that. So did you look at a lot of media
I love
as a coach?
I like getting angry. I really think playing with genuine hatred. Like, we used to hate Essendon at North, and they didn't. Why you hate us? Like, there's a period there in 2000, and they weren't quite up to what we were doing. And I think we used to, we'd win more than we'd lose against them, but it was just genuine. And every time I played, I'd love to get to that genuine, I cannot stand you. So the old after the game hanging out, it was like, well done, get off, especially if you lost. But I know times have changed, and you guys are all mates, and it's all great. But
I'm in your school, mate.
But it's just genuine, whatever reason you'd find to hate the opposition, I'd love. So easy one, culture, Wolsey, whatever. Give me something that I can use. That's really difficult now to get that and I remember saying before game, like, if you genuinely, it's genuine. You can't make it up. So you do the rah-rah, but if it wasn't, like Glenn Archer lived in that space, so if you just poked him a tiny bit, it was all over.
Us against them.
Us against
Used to
them.
say that
Yeah,
one.
well, everyone's the same. I think every club has the same sort of vibe, but and I don't know if it's even relevant these days or not, because the players have changed a little bit. Competitive instinct's one thing, but then there's this next level it's in your core. And those guys are quite often, the most successful.
Can I inject myself into this chat?
Well, you're one of those.
That's all right. Well, no. Well, I used to love playing angry. Yeah, absolutely. I got the best out of myself doing that.
Absolutely.
But towards the back end of 2018, so a big year, we lost some players. One you would be the same. You'd have moments in your career, remember, whether it's success or hard times, and a really probably the most difficult day or moment I think I can remember is a phone call I had from you before the qualifying final in 2018. Do you remember it all?
I do. Yeah, you were actually really good to deal with. I really admired what you did, Scope. I'm not blowing smoke, mate, but sometimes when you drop people, they just accept it and you don't hear from them. And the guys that come in on Monday and go, okay, you wanted me to do this in the twos. I've done it. Now what? And you do that every time. You made it really difficult. So you're almost like, I don't want to have to drop Scope. I don't want to go through all this bullshit again. But with that particular game, we were too tall. And I think Shet was coming back or something.
Jets
was coming back. And it was a really tough call to make. and ringing you. I knew when you ring people, they don't listen. They hear you're not playing, and that's it. So I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Give Paddy a call if you need to debrief a bit more. Is that what happened?
That's great.
So that's what I did, and then you must have called Paddy.
Yep.
And then, there's 2 hours I won't get back from him.
I think I called you back. I think I called you back after Paddy.
I think
try to get back in the team somehow.
Yeah. Well, I know the next conversation I was just like, and I don't know if you remember this, but it was like, mate, it's not over, or something like that. Like you just don't know. Like, don't go over the edge with this, or something like that. I can't really remember, mate. You've probably got a better memory.
No, you said I don't know how it's going to happen, but you're going to get back in the side for the grand final.
Something like that. Yeah, it was like, don't give up on the year. There's a long way to go. Something like that. And then Shep, unfortunately, did his hamstring in the first 20 minutes. So what were you thinking when that happened? Because he's a good mate.
Yeah. I'll speak about this a little bit, but my first reaction, and it was a genuine reaction, was like, one, I know what's going on, right? I want to be in the team, and I spent a lot of my career watching on, and I it's why I find it difficult to support West Coast as a fan now. I love the boys, love people involved with the club, but I spent a lot of my time, if I was watching West Coast, thinking, fuck, I wish I was playing. And so when Shep gets injured, I'm like, well, I'm a likely replacement instantly. But it was all care. I just ran downstairs. I just knew how I know Shep, and I just knew he'd be rattled, and I knew he'd be shattered. Yeah. And so it was me and Shep in the room by ourselves. And then Keith, Shep's old man, come down, and it was just us three. Doctors left, and it was just us three, and we were talking about. I was trying to keep him positive. He did all the tests in front of me, and he had strength. So I was like, mate, he'd never done a hammy before. So I was like, mate, I've done a bunch of hammies. You get 3 weeks off here, and you'll be able to play in granny. And that was the chat. And then, so my thoughts were that. But on reflection, he was probably the only player that could get injured that I'd come back in for. And I remember a conversation I had with you as soon as he had his scans back and he was done. And it was like the Tuesday, 2 weeks out from a prelim, and you're like, mate, you'll be playing. Not even talking about selection. It was the first time I couldn't
deal with the grief of not selecting.
It was the first time you ever told me you were picking me until I bloody saw it on the footy show. No, it was no.
In the paper.
No, it was a good chat. It was. I wrote about it in an article. I wrote about you. I don't know if you read that.
Sorry, mate.
It was very.
I was avoiding a bit of the media there.
No, it was about 3 weeks ago, and it was an interaction we had, and I spoke about that. There was difficult position for you to be in as head coach because you're picking between 23 players every week or 22. But that week was the first time that I'd ever been told 2 weeks out from a game that I was playing.
Yeah, right.
My whole career.
Yeah.
For prelim.
I never tried to tell players before main training that they're out in particular, because every time you do it, someone gets injured and they're back in. So you go through you drop them, and then you didn't need to drop them because injuries take over. But telling someone they're going to play early, I suppose that only really happens at the prelim because it was the week off, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we win the prelim. That
was a good day.
Yeah. Do you remember the meeting we had before that game? It's actually to do with our good friend Hamish Brayshaw.
No.
Because his brother Angus was playing for Melbourne. And you were concerned. Not with Hammer, and I'm sure you trust him, but you also didn't want anything getting back to Melbourne.
Yeah, we were brothers.
We tagged Gorn with Scotty and Bart.
Yes, I remember that. Yep.
And we had a meeting.
I remember being worried about Hammer, loose lips.
Yeah, so you cut all the other players out and just had, because you wanted to. No, you wanted to.
Does he know this?
Yeah, you wanted to.
Good.
You wanted I can't think of the word. You wanted a bit of an ambush. You wanted an ambush. Yeah. Melbourne had a lot of momentum from over east.
Yeah.
Contested footy side, and you wanted to jump them.
Yep.
It's good messaging in the end. I don't think they scored in the first half.
No, well, mate, you guys went ballistic. Yeah, the Gorn one was interesting because we had Lycett and Vardy, and obviously Gorn's outstanding player. So put some time into him, and we followed that through the next week in the granny as well with Grundy. Yeah. So those two boys, I think Scotty Lycett's form was poor, and it really put it on him about, mate, I don't know if I'm going to play this week sort of stuff. And then he really stood up. Yeah. With the Brayshaw, I don't think it was an accusation. It was more just, let's just keep things in house. They are a pretty tight family.
Yeah, correct.
When that game was over almost at the end of the first quarter, and then at the half, are you thinking we're going to a grand final? Like, at what point are you?
I thought this could be the biggest choke in the history of the AFL. I was honestly thinking that.
Yeah.
And then Gil McLaughlin must have been in 3 doors up, so it's 3/4 time, and he's gone. I'll see you next week. And I said, "Don't you fucking say it." I was really angry with him because it was 3/4 time, and it was like 46 points. They kicked a couple of goals, and I was filthy. Yeah, no, I'm at my worst when we've got a good lead, which hasn't happened for a few years.
I want to talk about the grand final, if we can, at the premiership 2018.
Sure.
So I think we've heard from enough around the build up. Yep, you're right with the embrace over enjoy. No sunnies, no phones in the
Dennis Pagan. Yeah.
We missed that in 2015. No one ever told us that 2015.
Didn't they?
No. We were all wearing sunnies and we're all on our phones taking photos.
This is what, in 1998, I think we had guys wearing sunnies in the parade, and that's why we lost the 98 grand final. I thought we were rock stars. So, I thought maybe it was a bit dated, but you do whatever you can. So we did that in 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you do anything else differently preparing? Did you prepare? I don't know. Can you remember?
No, not really, mate. No, I think we were a bit, and the momentum was a little bit different. I think we got in front of the comp a bit in 15 with some strategy, whereas the 18 crew was more, you go into, like, the sweet spot. And I always thought for that little, 3 or 4 year window when you guys hit your sweet spot, I just backed away and let you do your thing. And I think we won 10 in a row in 18 at the start. And after round 2, it was like, oh, okay, this is just so strategically stuff outside a few tagging things here and there. It was more let you guys get to work. So it felt different in 18.
We'll need to be careful on the details here, but I do want to say that you did drop me a lot over my career, and I thought you were going to drop me 2 hours before the grand final. So you know what I'm talking about.
You need to be careful.
I know, but there's a way we can talk about it because I think it's a good story.
Okay.
I get off the bus, grand final day, walking into the rooms, and you are standing there like Dennis Pagan of old, and you pull me into a room and shut the door. And I think, and it's just you and me.
Yes.
And this has never happened before, and I've never done that ever.
No.
Not even at the footy club, like about my beard, like nothing. I've never been in a room by myself with you ever. Strange. And it was like a storage room. It was like a storage closet.
It was, yeah.
And I thought you were dropping me. I thought you were going to drop me. That's where my mindset was. So he asked what sort of player I was. Like I thought.
Yeah, fear of failure. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I can get that.
So you're looking at me anyway, and I know I'm telling this story, but I'm telling it because I don't want, I want to tell it. And you say to me, I've got a bit of a sledge for some Collingwood guys out there. I'm not sure whether to give you the sledge or not. And I said, mate, fucking give me the sledge now. I'm about to go to war with these blokes. And so you gave me the sledge, and I used that sledge on grand final day.
Did it work?
Yes. I mean, you gave me the job on grand final day out of the goal square, basically. It was on the go. It was Stephenson. It was side bottom. Did you think I was going to hold up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you played one of your best games of your career, grand final day, which Glenn Freeborn did that in 1996. He kicked 3 goals in a quarter, 20 points down, and he's kicked 3.
Remember that.
And then didn't get a kick the rest of his career. And it's a bit same happened to you. I thought, we would have win. I think everyone contributed, but it was one of your better games.
What are you thinking at quarter time? What's your messaging?
I thought the 2 goals we kicked right before quarter time were lucky goals. Like, I don't think JK marked that ball, and I don't think the goal that Willie kicked. We're talking like everyone's knows what we're talking about here, but I suppose that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we do.
But Willie kicked the goal off the back of his foot.
Like and skimmed his shoelace.
I reckon if you went to the camera, I don't know if it would have been considered a goal these days. So I just thought we were unlucky. We were doing a lot of good things, but every time it went in the forward line for them, they scored. And a couple of boys, dropped some marks or missed some opportunities. I remember Bung messing something up and going, I might have missed a kick or something like that. Yeah, that was me. So I was worried, but not not to the point where it wasn't. We couldn't come back from it.
Are you? How much influence can you have on grand final day like that? Five goals down as a coach.
We put Gov behind the ball, so strategically we put a +1, and Bucks equalised it pretty quickly. So they were onto it, but it did stop the bleeding a little bit. So obviously back then you could do a lot of things at centre bounces too. This is before the 666 rule. So we'd have Cripper starting off the back and ripping through and that sort of stuff, all the fun stuff. So there's stuff we can do strategically that you probably can't do now because the game's changed a little bit.
That's interesting.
So we did some stuff. They reacted to it. It worked okay. Got a couple of lucky goals, and then I think after quarter time we dominated really. Like if you look at the stats from that game, I think we had 63 inside 50s to 40 something. So we just couldn't convert in that last quarter and a half. Probably a bit unfair on Collingwood, by the way.
When you say you counter and having an opposing coach do that, is there someone in amongst your team that notices that and says, "Hey, just letting you know that this has changed," or are you looking for that? How do you realize that something's changed like that?
Yeah, we'll look for it as a coaching group, and when you've got a good playing group, they'll adapt before we even do it. So the boys were very good at, this has happened, we'll do this, and we'd be going in the box. This has happened, we should do this. Oh no, they're already doing it. So that's when you know you're in the good space. So that happened a lot in that little era that we had. That the leaders, probably the guys, kissing this guy too much. The backs were probably the ones who recognised situations and then adjust accordingly.
Tags played a big part that day. So Shuey and Yo both got tagged.
Yeah,
Hutch tagged side bottom. That's gone out of the game a little bit, but that day it hadn't.
Yeah, the game's changed. Like we tried to evolve our game plan, sort of run its race probably 3 years ago. And tagging's always been there. Sometimes you just don't notice it. If you don't see commentators talking about it. But I think every week you're accountable for someone. There's someone there who's going, listen, if he gets off the chain, you need to lock him down, or you start with a bit of a lockdown. But the game's changed. A bit more one-on-one contests in particular, as opposed to what we were doing back in the day.
Sheed from the boundary, were you thinking he was going to kick it?
Yeah, I was talking, if he kicks it, what are we doing? So that's the one bit we can get in front of the game a bit from coaches. So if he kicks it, we want Yo behind the ball. And as soon as he kicked it, before the runner went out there, Yo went behind the ball. So just stuff like that was like, the boys are on.
Did you think he was going to kick it?
I wasn't thinking like that.
Right.
No, I was thinking if he kicks it.
Right.
So I was hoping he'd kick it. But we must have missed 4 shots before that.
Yeah.
It was getting tight.
Did you? What do you take? What's your take on the play on or Shepherd for that mark?
I thought it was a mark. Yeah. You couldn't call that. Imagine calling that.
Yeah,
that's a good point. We had Brett Roseberry on, who was the officiating umpire for that call. No, it's about the same. Yeah, he's saying also decisions sort of happen all the time.
Well, put it this way: if Sheed wasn't there, could have Willie marked it. I thought maybe. He pushed him, might have been.
What's the moment like when the siren goes in the box?
Just relief. Yeah, it's a bit cheesy, but I was just relieved. And then so happy for all of our people connected. So you guys are great. You're going to get all the glory, but the staff and administrators and the volunteers, I was really happy for them. And then what I underestimated was the supporters. So I keep thinking, I don't think a lot about 18, other than what would it have been like being at a pub back here, watching the granny. It would have been awesome to be a part of that. I know Fremantle supporters maybe not, but yeah, the support that WA has for our club is huge. So it would have been great to see the reaction of that back here.
What about Dennis giving you? Did he give you your coach's medal? What did he presented something on the? That would have been a full circle moment for you.
Yeah, well, I rang him the day before the day of the granny in the morning about when, if he got any advice. I think he said something about just settle your staff down. That's what he said. So, yeah.
What's that mean?
Well, I think in 98, at half time, we were winning. We were up by 25 points or something, and everyone was all the staff were clapping us in the rooms and the trainers. And
so is that another reason why you lost?
Absolutely, that and the sunglasses. So I think he was just like, and Dennis, like, as much as that, it's a bit old school. It made sense that, so that was good advice.
Big moment though, Dennis Pagan, your first coach, and you would have thought, you learned a lot off him.
Yeah, it was good, man. I haven't seen him for 10. We're not close.
No.
We don't speak a lot, but yeah, seen him on the stage, and I think he went to shake my hand, and I knocked him out of the way and gave him a hug. Yeah, it's surreal. Like, I still can't comprehend that day, really. Like, when you think, and then I'm thinking, who I got to thank in terms of the sponsors, and you don't plan that before the game, that sort of stuff. So that was surreal. And then obviously the 3 boys, or 4 players really, Mackenzie missing out. You start thinking about that too.
Did you have conversations with them? Like, what's a conversation like with Brad Shepherd after a game like that?
Nothing. Not nothing. I can't, I really hope in 10 years' time or whenever the reunions are that they come along. Because, Andrew Gaff won All-Australian that year. So Nat Nui, he had a great year up until that point. Eric McKenzie missed a lot of the year, but won a BNF a few years before it. So, and then Shep was there right up until that final.
I've got some dot points from 2018 onwards. I know it's been a long chat, Simo, but
sure. Sure, you'll cut a bit of this out.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. That's not how podcasts roll. It goes,
isn't it?
No, we just play it all. Not even 2-parted, actually. One play over 2 weeks. So 2018, great. Big moments that I think that fans and maybe the club speaks about that you can give us short answer or long answer on, but I've just sort of written down these as points. So Tim Kelly trade gets talked about a lot.
Yeah.
How did that go down? Your reflections? Were we meant to get him earlier than we did? Maybe, I don't know.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda moments. I think, what year was this? Is where I'm a bit grey.
End of 2019. So we lost to Geelong in a semi.
Yes.
And
so we're still chasing. Yeah, we're still chasing. I'm not sure what happened to those 2 picks that we gave up. I'm sure someone would track it down what the result was. The speculation about what he was getting is way off. Like, he wanted to get home to his family, and really pleased to accommodate that. And he wins the best and fairest last year. I think he's held up his end. What's happened around that has been a real challenge. So yeah, I don't know the details behind coulda, woulda, shoulda, and I don't really live in that space. But I know he's a Westfield medalist.
Willie Rioli, end of 2019.
Yeah.
I don't really want to put you in a position to have to speak about the details of that. I've thought about this, and I'm close with Willie, and so are you.
Yeah.
He flew over off his own back for your farewell, which I think is a pretty big act by Willie, given he's still playing for another side. But I wondered if you remembered, like, speaking to the group on that morning of the game.
No, I don't. But that was just bizarre. Like, so we're playing in a final against Geelong, and it's 9:00 at night, and Asada or someone rocks up to the hotel and tells Willie he can't play. So, and then, the story about what he did and that stuff, let's park that.
Correct.
And talk about just who he is and how he dealt with it and how we dealt with it. That was a real challenge for us, wasn't it? Like, because there's a bit of a divide amongst the group about, what we thought. And, I went straight down the support line, really, that, I had his back, and that wasn't shared by everyone at certain points, I don't think, from staff and players. But it took a while to work out. The club stuck by him through that process. So he missed a year at least.
Yep.
I think we recontracted him through that time, and that was sort of the not beginning of the end, but sort of from that moment onwards, from 19 onwards, become a real challenge to have on-field success. So we missed him as a player, and then getting him back to the club, reconnecting with you guys. I think there's some stuff he'd regret doing outside of what he did around you guys, but I was so happy to see him a few weeks ago, because I think in the end, you guys have reconnected to a point where it's all good. It's water under the bridge. Respect is there both ways, and I hope he finishes his career off well at Port. I still love him. So yeah, it was a real challenge for the club, wasn't it? Probably that and some of the COVID stuff we had to deal with were the 2 biggest things we've dealt with the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big conversation, the COVID and the hub stuff. But I mean, that was an interesting time. I don't know how to put that, but
Do you remember, because it was West Coast Melbourne, the last game of the round before, they were like, we don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think there was a crowd in that game, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the COVID game.
Yeah, and then that was where the last one before it got shut down for a while.
Yeah, it was bizarre. We had Amazon following us around too, didn't we?
Yeah,
that was fun. Yeah. I think every club has a story about that, and ours. I don't know, Sco. It feels like we took the rules real serious. Around, you got to train in groups of 8. You got to clean the gym after. I'm sure every club did it, but I reckon some clubs may not have. So
wiping down door handles, walking through them.
Yeah, it was bizarre, and trying to get fit while that was going, because 8 weeks off is a long time. So trying to do that and comply to regulations and not get fined, and then we moved to the Gold Coast for just fly there, and we'll tell you how long. Right, so we can't tell you how long you're going for. So it didn't worry me. Worried you? Worried guys with young families, worried guys with wives who worked, worried guys who had businesses. And we had 13 players with kids. So with Freo stayed in the same hotel and they had none. So just completely different type of, maybe 1 or 2, but the environment was a real challenge, and we didn't play very well for 3 games, the first 3 games. And we were considered a pretty good side. So, and then I remember it, I had a press conference and we were playing Richmond, I think it was Richmond. And it was Nisbet and Voz and something. Look, if we don't find out where we're going when we're going home no matter what. I said, "Oh, do you want me to say that in my presser?" He said, "Yeah, fucking go and just tell them. Just say it." I said, "Sure?" I said, "Yeah." So I went out and I said, "If we don't find out where we're going home," and then that didn't go down well with
anybody.
And
I was on board.
Yeah, and we thought it might force their hand to give us a bit of direction, and it worked the other way. And then the perception was we're losing as well, so doing those things when you're losing doesn't help. And we come across as big sooks and complainers and all that sort of stuff. And then while that was happening, we weren't winning. And then I think we won 7 in a row, which no one would remember. And we played finals in that year. But yeah, that was the beginning of, got a bit murky in the media, didn't it? I remember Gil rang me, said, leaders are meant to be bulletproof. I said, yeah, mate. Yeah, I'm just trying to look after the whole department, the whole club.
Us, right?
Yeah. But yeah, it was it was difficult.
Wooden spoon in 20, whatever year that was, 2020.
It was last year.
2023.
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah, well, is what it is, mate. I can't, it's really difficult. If you're planning for a footy trip at round 8, it's a long year. And that's what the last 3 years have been. So get round 10, finals out of reach. So you go from demanding excellence and high standard and to how do I keep the unity of the group, the unity of the department, the unity of the club? How do we stay resilient? How do we learn? How do we give players opportunity? So that I've been in that mode for probably 3 years. As much as the optimism you have in pre-season, but once you hit 8 weeks in, you realise it's, those 2 years where we got decimated, it was like, okay, what can we do here? And then it got a bit sticky at the end of last year with me and Niz and the board, the attention we got. So while that was going on, we were trying to keep the guys as connected as we could. That was a real challenge.
When at this point in time, Harley Reid is being, he's everywhere in the media as a number 1 draft pick, right? And so when you've got 2 clubs sitting towards the bottom of a ladder, and I guess the prize at the end is Harley Reid, how, North Melbourne win that last game and they don't get the first pick. Is that sort of being talked about at all amongst the club? I'm not saying that teams would throw games or try to force their way to get a number 1 pick, but they must know that what's at stake if you do finish bottom of the ladder with someone like Harley Reid on the end. Yeah,
I can only speak on what we do, and you're so desperate for success that it just doesn't come into your mind. I know it's, how can it not? But we beat the Bulldogs a week before.
Yeah.
And we went from, I don't know if that got us off the bottom.
Yeah, put you second last.
Yeah. So, and that for us was so important. Now, in the long term, you can go, but the players are so desperate to win, and the players they're the ones who are out there. So unless you start doing strategic moves or not playing players or shutting down, early surgeries, you can do all that sort of stuff. But to do it so you lose, it's just never come close to being in my mind. And I'm sure Clarko's, they won. So yeah, I think we're just too competitive to think that in that space. But I suppose the threat's there, isn't it? And Harley Reid doesn't come across your table every year. But yeah, it's not what I was thinking going into the Bulldogs game when backs against the wall and, trying to get the best out of our group and keep our motivation to stay connected. It would have been horrendous if the players had gone, like, how would Gov gone, hang on, we've just rested 4 players and our players would have seen straight through it and then you'd just lose everyone if that happens. So, yeah, it definitely didn't come into my mind.
Do you heard a lot of your chats sort of post and even while you're at the back end of this year, while you're coaching around, how you've felt and how you've been affected and it seems like you've been balanced. Is that real? Like, is the balance that you speak about, is that real? Like,
how do you judge it? Is it what I've been working on? Like, how do I judge how I'm feeling?
That's right.
Post the last month. So when it ended, I remember talking to Pikey after the Melbourne game. So if I'm in your long-term plans, I'm all in. I'm up for it, But if I'm not, then let's not wait another 6 weeks to get to, what we happened last year. And to his credit, and he's a new CEO, he's still learning, but it was pretty sharp with it. So within 12 hours or by the next morning, he told me that, let's wind it up. So that's called amicable, isn't it? Probably not. I don't know how you call that, but I was at peace with it because, rather than going through another, and we're brutal here. WA's brutal with the media, and it wasn't going to get better. And then every game has to be a, resilience piece around trying to keep my job. I just, so the clarity there came real quick, and I was really keen to, no matter what, to make sure it ended well, no matter how it ended, because the club has done so much for me. It's just been the best experience of my life. And however it ended, it was going to end well. So made my peace with the board, said get Adam before my press conference, and we did it together with Pikey and Fitzy. And so I think we did as good a job. It was a bit clunky here and there, but for the most part, I was okay with all that. And then I'm going, okay, now how do I feel? Back to your question. So 2 weeks in a row, I've been at my fire pit, 5 beers in, screaming at the TV, barracking my ass off, like, why is he playing? Like, more about, he's not, I'm just a nuffy supporter. And I feel like that's a good thing, because if I was hoping we'd lose or, there's got nothing that, so I can only judge it on the weekend. So I still like watching the footy, despite what some advice I've been given to get away. My family's all doing their thing, and I'm doing my thing. So I don't know. Supporting West Coast at the moment is probably a good sign that I'm okay. I don't know. Is that a response that tells me we're going to be good space? I don't know, but yeah, I find myself I'm barracking for West Coast.
You spoke a lot about the media. Oh no, sorry. You didn't really speak a lot about the media. You mentioned them in your press conference, which got a lot of reaction. There was an interesting back page the day after you mutually departed. Did you see it? Do you care? That probably extends to like all of it, like the media coverage.
It was interesting. Like, it's probably, I sort of get why they did it. Like I said earlier, if you go too hard back at the media, in particular WA, you're gonna get a return of serve. I didn't think I was that brutal in the press conference. I think it was, you want more information or more access, treat us a bit more respect. So, and I haven't been reading the paper a lot, mate. I don't know. I'm sure you can understand why, but I did look at I turned the radio on in the morning and someone said, "Oh, can you sue for that?" I was thinking, well, what's that person talking about? And then I looked at the back page, the front page, and I go, And I worried about my wife more than anything. I was like, oh, Nick, it's all going to finish. It's all, 2 or 3 days will be. But yeah, I didn't realise what it might have backfired a little bit with the way they've done it. So I wasn't devastated about it, to be honest. I thought it was just that's what they do. But some of the things that come back after that, made me look like Mother Teresa in the end.
It did. Yeah, there was this groundswell of support.
Yeah, which and you were part of that, mate, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know what to say. It went, and our supporters are so loyal, and we've had some success too. So for them to have my back a little bit was great. I really appreciated it, and I was really keen to thank them, the following week about what they've done for our club. It just felt like it galvanised the group a little bit, and I appreciate it in the end. Not the front page.
Seems like you got a pretty good connection with Harley Reid. So I don't know if you want to speak about him as a player, as a person.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
I get him. Like, I understand what makes him tick, and he just he wants to play footy for his mates, and he wants to play to win. Those are the two best things to play footy for. So you would really enjoy his company. But he's also reminds me of my son a little bit. Like, he's 19. He was 18 at the time. So he still hasn't learnt the lessons of life a lot either in a country kid. Dealing with the attention, it's been outstanding how he's doing that. But I don't think he's doing it easily. Like, it's not an easy thing to deal with, I'm sure you can all imagine. So the way he deals with it, he's not lucky, but the way he plays, he doesn't rely on anyone. It's just like, if you're a forward or you're a back or you're a winger, but when you're just a hunter, so he can sort of back it up a little bit. But I've connected with him to a degree where I just know what makes him tick about how he loves his family, how he loves his mates, and loves playing footy.
He's very good at football.
Yeah, but he's still got a long way to go, which is great. Great for us. So there's stuff you can't teach that he's doing that if he can polish some of the stuff around that, he's going to be very, very good.
Couple of rapid fire questions to finish off. I just want a few lines here on each of these. Did you ever think about your reactions in the coach's box being on camera? Is that ever something you thought about when they cut on the broadcast and they go?
When you tip, like when you're punching stuff, they missed a lot of that stuff. So you do think about it a little bit, but it's too late when you think about it.
Sort of things used to make you tip.
Oh,
I reckon I've seen that exact reaction as well.
Headbutting a player after a goal.
You're an idiot for doing that. I've never dragged him. I reckon I've dragged you. You got dragged for that.
I should have.
Yeah.
That was on camera, the phone call.
Was it? Look, I remember putting the mask over my eyes once. And that got some traction, but not like.
What sort of things? What sort of, like, is it a one contest?
No,
is it silly things?
Skill errors,
right?
It's skill errors.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're the fundamentals of the stuff that kills coaches.
Okay,
it's not. It's the fundamentals. So just missing a 15-meter, and they're the things that I used to miss as a player. I was a poor kick. So
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. I wasn't very skillful, but when I see when they're better than that, you should be better. Yes. Scully, you should be better, mate.
I think JL broke a phone a couple of weeks ago. Something, the smashing on the That's a go-to for a lot of coaches.
They're really hard to break.
You broken something?
No, I've tried so hard to break them, and they're really. I think Ross broke one at Adelaide Oval a few weeks ago.
I reckon he's probably broke a few.
Yeah, they're hard to break.
Last minute team changes as a tactic. Is that something that happens at all?
I think not with us. I didn't do it.
Does it happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keeping injuries on the down low. So I don't know
why.
You get a bit self-indulgent with that. You think you're the most important. You think the close training sessions and all that sort of stuff is a marginal gain. The last few years I haven't worried about it too much, but when you're in the slot, in the zone, and everything matters. I'm not saying we didn't do this, but the opposition stuff was important, that you kept it quiet, especially if someone significant was injured. Actually, when I got the job, so Victorians, when you come over here to play, you think that everyone is working for West Coast or Fremantle, like the hotel, the staff, that there's spies everywhere. That
Right.
they're on the phone at the reception going, "Hey, listen."
Simo just had a muffin downstairs.
Honestly, you think the whole state is out to get you. This is back in the day,
Yeah.
and now I realise
we were.
it's opposite. No, it's opposite. They're out to release stuff. Like, we're not. The media should be support. Like, don't release that Nick Nat's got a tight hammy, because then Melbourne finds out. Like, I thought it was like we're all in this together, but that was a bit of a pipe dream, I suppose.
Why do clubs have closed training sessions? What's the actual reason? What does that happen? Are you hiding game plan?
There's opposition scouts at every club. So we send a scout to every training session, and they'll go, so-and-so didn't train. They trained down the line plays. The stoppages look like this. I heard, Clarko yelling this out, like,
right.
And it's just information. And it's go, so-and-so tagged someone at training in the mock drills. So that's good information to get.
Right. So that's why they're closed.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to do at Lathline. Like there's
some idiot who films, I reckon. He parks a car up the top.
Yeah.
Drives that red Jeep. And like, it's a free country. I can do it. All that sort of.
Right.
Come, mate. It's a closed session. Come on Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
Thoughts on coaches meeting with players from other clubs during the season? Does it happen?
Yeah, I reckon I've met 50 players in my time.
I reckon people would be surprised with that.
Hey?
I reckon people would be surprised to hear that.
Yeah, it is easier when you're in Melbourne, as opposed to, I think we're talking about Mitch coming over here. When you have to fly to Perth and as
why are you in Perth?
Do you think it happens a lot in the AFL in general?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It does.
All the time. Do you meet anyone?
No, it wasn't good enough.
How many of your mates at West Coast do you think have met other clubs over the years?
Interesting, hey? Like I said with the manager stuff, I think I was at times naive with things. Like I was very much, and you know what sort of player I was. Like I was very much us. Like I was. I think you and I actually have a lot of similarities. Very competitive, play to win, connection pace, all that stuff. I thought those things were important. Recovery wasn't that important. Training not really high on my list either. But playing and winning and competing, like that's me.
Training, I thought, was reasonably important. But anyway,
well. I used to train, it's not well at times. But like, I wouldn't know what any of my teammates were ever on contract wise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. Like, I just didn't care.
No,
you were there with
yeah.
me. It's like, you're us. I don't really give a shit what you're doing.
Right. Anyway, it does. It happens, and it must be harder to talk to Western Australian teams because, it's a fair flight, whereas you're in Melbourne every second or third week, so you can sort of make all the buy around, all that sort of stuff.
What are you saying? Like, how do you, let's say, for instance, Will's in his second year or 4-year deal and you meet up with him. Are you, like, how do you know that there's interest? Because obviously you can't just hit up every single player and say, hey,
I know they go through the managers.
Yeah.
It goes through the managers.
And so and then you get a little tip off, hey, Will wants to chat.
No, I think it's more, does Will want to chat?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's, because if you start spreading yourself, it'll get out.
Yeah.
If you start actively looking around as a player or
as a club,
it sort of gets a bit sticky.
What's the percentage split as a coach, head coach, footy game related stuff and off-field sponsors, board, media? Like what's the actual split? Like what do you wish you could spend more time on footy?
Yeah, but that's on me a little bit and the structure. Like when I first got here, I think they let me do a lot of footy, and year by year you creep into other areas. Media messaging and dealing with boards and footy affairs committee and all that sort of stuff, and itinerary and training planning. So that's sort of, I think, get in the way, but that needs to be done well. And you can drift into, hey, can we do like this? Can we do that? Make sure you give me this, and you do lose your focus. So I would have thought 70-30 is a good balance, but I reckon I slipped in that.
Short time out of the game, but what do you miss the most so far?
Routine, probably. Yeah, routine. And I'm not missing the game days much, I think, because it's been hard, the game day stuff. But the routine, the interaction that you have with people every day, because I don't have many mates here outside of the footy club. So I drove past the club on my first Thursday off. I haven't missed a main training in 30 years, really. And I drove past and the boys were training. So I beat the horn. No one heard, but I beat the horn. And I was on the way to doing something else. And so that's what you missed a little bit, just a bit of that connection piece. And it's only been three or 4 weeks.
And knowing everything.
Yeah, well, mate, I don't miss making decisions. Like you must make 100. We all make decisions, but it must be 100 a day that, you could probably avoid a few.
That's interesting. What's next? Last one for me.
I don't know. I'm just trying to work through, I've got a bit of time. So I want to see what happens in Perth if we want to hang out in Perth for a bit longer. And if I can't find much here, then I might have to get back into footy. But yeah, I'm looking around here at some opportunities.
Good. That's enough from Dan and I. We're going to finish off with our audience questions.
Okay. Does that go for this long normally?
Yep. No, they don't. But you're an interesting person, Simo,
yeah, sure.
and you don't do many of these, and I'll never have you back on. So I wanted to just get you, and then we can just catch up at reunions. You do have mates over here. Well, the boys, mate.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
We can catch up at the dog
social
park.
media, not social media. I did tell you this pre. A lot of love on socials, and not that I was surprised, but a lot of people singing your praises, which is very well deserved, and I'm sure much appreciated by you. But some questions coming from the audience. So you've heard enough from Dan and I. Here's social media.
Yep. We'll start with PM ANILE, whatever that is. How involved are you in making playing list decisions, and which list decisions would you change if you had your time again?
That's so loaded. No, I didn't know anything about list management when I got the job, like I spoke about earlier. But, you're part of a committee, but there's, I don't know, 8 to 10 full-time staff dedicated to that. And at the end of the day, you look at some vision, but you don't know the depth of the research. So I have an opinion in the process, but I'll, you just largely lean on the collective opinion.
Robert MS.
Did
you enjoy coaching Will Schofield?
Yes and no. Yes and no. No, I did. He's like my son. He's like my stepson. If we first met when you were 20, 20-year-old stepson, not the 8-year-old stepson.
The ones that's like, you're not my dad.
I don't know what that means as an
stepbrothers.
analogy.
The stepbrother's type of son.
Yeah, right.
Makes no sense.
That makes no sense.
Did you enjoy it or not?
Yeah.
You don't have to say that.
Of course I did, mate. Yeah, you're a good man.
Yeah. Do you, what? Anything else? Nothing? We had some good one-on-ones.
Yeah, I enjoy conflict, which, some people don't like conflict. You like conflict.
Yes, I know.
Right? Some of you guys don't see above the playing, in terms of the locker room, and sometimes trying to connect that was a challenge with you guys. Like, this is bullshit. This should be happening. This should be happening. I'm going, mate, there's other things at play here. Just hang in there, sort of stuff. That I found that hard, but for the most part, everything was good.
Div, dab, dove.
What did you say when you walked into the press conference? I assume this is to Bailey Williams direction.
Oh, I said, shave that stupid moustache. Like, you got a good one. His is bright red. I was walking in and I said, and I don't know, just what I do sometimes. Just everything's so serious. And I walk past. I said, mate. And that was it. So
that was a way for you to lighten it up for at least yourself, right? A bit of a trait of yours. Like, say some stupid gag before you.
Yeah. And it was a bit intense there for a little bit, wasn't it? It was reported that I said something that.
Yeah.
Oh, you happy?
Yeah, you did this or something.
You
like
got
that.
what you wished for.
Yeah, that was
Bailey.
You'd ever
played like 50 games in a row. Like,
yeah.
Shave
that mustache.
And did he keep it? I think he kept it. Yeah. Charlie, not the coach anymore. Charlie _ D45.
The best moment apart from 2018 that made you go, this is why I love coaching.
Shit, that's a really difficult one. I really enjoyed our first camp we had in Broome. It was brand new for everyone. And I remember I got the 2 cups. I don't know if you remember this, Scully. We put one cup on the beach, right in the middle of us, and we put the other cup 100 metres down the beach near the camels. And I remember saying, I don't know if we're this close to a flag or that close, but whatever we're doing, we're going to do it together, that sort of stuff. They're the cool things that you remember, rather than the winning and losing. It's probably more that stuff.
Yeah, interesting. Last one, Eggman.
How do you like your eggs?
Scrambled at the moment. I'm going the carnivore diet.
Right, which is
just meat and eggs.
just meat.
And fish. So, yeah, I'm scrambling them at the moment.
Last one I want to add in. Sorry, last one. I just had you triggered me. The basketball team you coaches had when you were first
Reptiles.
over here, the Reptiles. Any favourite stories from that? There was some pretty.
Yeah.
Where'd you play? Which centre?
Bendat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a bit of fun.
Didn't Paddy
Paddy-
get sent off on
He
that?
got ejected for swearing. And the guy said, if you swear again, you're going to get ejected. And he's going, fuck off. And when he had 4 on the team at the time, so we went into 3 and we had to forfeit. Like, Tuesday night, 9:30,
Oh yeah.
and the umpire was like 14. And he's, so he got ejected.
Sort of player were you? Very
That was
loose from outside
just
range.
Dish it off.
Yeah. Mate, I know it's been a long one and we're very much appreciative of your time.
Cheers.
Did you enjoy yourself? Is that okay for your
Yeah,
first podcast?
it's a little bit,
Self-indulgent.
a little bit, yeah.
It's
yeah.
not-
Feel
it's
like,
not that.
feel
People
like
like-
the retirement week.
Yeah, but people like listening to your
Yeah,
story, mate.
just
Because
stories.
a lot of people would have just seen you as a coach, as a player. And I think hopefully they would have learned a little bit about Adam Simpson. So thanks for your
Thanks,
time.
mate. Thanks, guys.
Big
Yeah.
thanks to
All
our
right.
sponsors, Paywise, powering the podcast this year, ID Athletic, Whippersnapper Whisky, Mumba Digital, TABtouch, Leaderville Precinct, Camera Electronic, and Shelter Brewing Co. Who,
Jesus.
yeah, absolutely. If you worry
And Hungry
about what you
Jacks.
need to do, hey, let's have a discussion after this. Hungry Jacks. It can definitely be a sponsor of this podcast. Shelter have got a carton of beers to give you for your time. I know you wanted money, but we've got your beers instead. They're all very big supporters of our podcast, and thank you very much. BackChatPodcast.com.au or follow us on socials, BackChat __ Adam Simpson. That's done and dusted. Thank you, mate.